A few weeks back, I can't actually recall which video it was, but I mentioned that even though I've never made a tag video before, I kind of wanted to make one that was related to disturbing, just sort of creepy, out there books, and I received so many comments from you guys saying you were really interested in seeing a tag like that. So I asked my friend Luke over at Luke Lane Reads if he wanted to create this tag with me. We have pretty similar book tastes, and the tag we came up with is the not suitable for work book tag, or not safe for work depending on how you choose to say it. I'm assuming you guys know what that means, considering it's an internet term and you're watching this obviously on YouTube, but in case you don't, NSFW if you see that. But think of it as just anything that is not appropriate if you're at work on your computer and your boss glances over your shoulder, just anything all-encompassing that he would not want to see on your screen. Something that's just really disturbing, creepy, violent, sexual, just anything like that. And we know some people read books that just don't fall under that umbrella at all, so we kind of made these questions open to interpretation, so hopefully anybody can do this tag that would want, and hopefully it'll be a lot of fun. So I will have Luke's video linked at the end of this one. Make sure you go ahead and watch it after this and check out his channel and subscribe. He's hilarious. So let's go ahead and get into it. So question number one, what is the last book you would want your parents to walk in on you reading? For this one, my parents are quite conservative and religious, so it could be a number of things, but when I think about the worst thing they could walk in on me reading, it would probably be something, and for these questions, they don't even have to be books you have read. For this one, for number one, I haven't read this book, but I have heard a lot about it, and they would probably die inside if they walked in and saw me reading God Is Not Great by Christopher Hitchens, because like I said, they're very religious, so that would just not go over well at all. Number two, it's storming outside and you're home alone for the night. What book would only make matters worse? One book I would not want to be reading just because it's sort of quietly unsettling and creepy is We've Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. This is about two sisters, and I believe it's their uncle who's slowly dying, who live in this mansion that's falling apart, and they think everybody in the town hates them. It has an unreliable narrator, just very overall unsettling and creepy. And if I were gonna go for a straight up horror novel that genuinely freaks me out, that would be The Ruins by Scott Smith. I won't give anything away, but I'll say it makes you want to just claw your skin off while you're reading it. It's terrifying. Number three, have you ever read a book simply because of the controversy surrounding it? First, I thought that I hadn't, and then I realized I read 50 Shades of Grey, and the only reason I read this was because you guys voted for it, and I'm assuming you guys wanted me to read it because of the controversy surrounding it, so I think that kind of counts. Number four, what is the most cringe-inducing romance or sex scene you have ever read? So for this, you don't have to answer sex scene if you haven't, say, read any or you don't want to. You could just say, if there's, say, just an annoying love triangle or something like that that you just thought was cringe-worthy. I'll answer it both ways, but in terms of a romance, I would have to go with Tender Morsels by Margot. It's covering up her last name, I don't remember what it is. But let's just say what you think is happening here in the book. This is an Australian YA book, and I did not enjoy this as much as I thought it would. And then in terms of the most cringe-inducing sex scene, I would have to go with On Chesil Beach by Ian McEwan. This book is just essentially leading up to a horrifically awful, most cringe-inducing sex scene. Oh my god, I read this in about 10th or 11th grade in high school, and it's forever burned into my memory. Actually, I'll go ahead and reenact it, and it's not going to be what you think it is. Number five, what book made you question the author's sanity? It doesn't have to be necessarily a scary book at all. This could be just some book that was so strange that it made you wonder how could any person think of the things that occurred in that book. So if I were gonna go for just a horror novel that's insane and out there and just crazy, the obvious answer is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. Easily the most insane book I've ever read in terms of what happens, in terms of the font, in terms of I probably should have answered this for what book I wouldn't want to read home alone on a stormy night. It's about a house that is bigger on the inside than it does on the outside, and it gets under your skin and is so disturbing and you feel like you're going mad while you read it. But in terms of characters, I just couldn't imagine how the author came up with them. I would have to go with Dare Me by Megan Abbott. On the outside, you think this is about high school cheerleaders and someone who gets murdered. How out there could it be? But the deranged minds of the girls in this book, oh my god. Go ahead and imagine Allison from Pretty Little Liars, but realistic and also horrifying. Number six, have you ever put a book down and not finished it because the content was too much for you? At first I was gonna say no for this one, but then I thought I read a book, what was it called? I wrote it down. It was called The Claiming of Sleeping Beauty. It was written by Anne Rice, but it's under a pseudonym that I can't remember. I picked this up randomly at the library and did not realize what I was about to read. It's essentially a BDSM erotica novel about Sleeping Beauty where the prince is sort of raping her the whole book. And Sleeping Beauty in the book was so childlike and so innocent. It just really made my stomach turn, and it was just a little too creepy and uncomfortable for me. So yeah, I could not get through that one. What fictional character do you have the most not suitable for work thoughts about? So essentially, who is your biggest book crush of all time? Now, I have to admit, very embarrassingly, I did go through a very intense Malfoy Hermione fanfiction reading phase. I know, I think we've all been there. I don't know why I said that. We haven't all been there, but I was. But aside from that, my actual answer is kind of just as embarrassing because the cover is so awkward and awful looking. But I mentioned this book before. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It's Companions of the Night by Vivian van Velde. This is kind of a little unknown YA vampire horror novel, but I think it is wonderful. I read it when I was 14 maybe, and I love the main character Ethan in this. I don't feel that creepy being 23 and finding him so attractive because I think he's meant to be obviously much older in the book considering he's a vampire, but I highly, highly recommend this one. Number 8, show us your most not suitable for work book cover. Now mine is quite sexual, obviously, if you just have something that's scary or creepy or anything like that. Mine is one of the Anita Blake Vampire Hunter series covers. This is Incubus Dreams. Lots of cleavage and blindfolding on this one. Have you ever read something from the romance and or erotica section, and what did you think of it? I have read some books that were just straight up romance and straight up erotica. I think there are some people, I want to say like stereotypical middle-aged women, but lots of people like reading erotica and romance novels just all the time, and some people that's the cringiest parts of books and just what they want to skip over. I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I mean, I like to read them every now and then, but it could never be what I consistently read. You know, sometimes you just feel the urge to read a really horrible romance novel, and that's fine. You're not reading it for its like literary qualities, because obviously the main point of those books are sex scenes, not character development, and that's fine. You know, that's not what their purpose is. I think they do serve a purpose, and I'm glad they exist, but you know, it's not something I'm reading all the time. Number 10, you stumble across a portkey. What fictional world do you not want to be transported into? So obviously people who read a lot of dystopians will have a plethora of answers they can read for this one. I don't read a ton, but my favorite dystopian of all time I definitely would not want to live in, and that is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. In this book, a horrible theocracy has taken over because people are infertile except for a select few women, so the women are forced to sort of be servants and have sex with the commanders and men in charge. Just awful, lot of murderings going on. In terms of like the worst situation I could be transported into, in this book the protagonist ends up sort of at one point inside a van slash RV the serial killer drives around in. It has dead bodies in it. I know this sounds awful, but trust me, it's fantastic, and this book is what got me into horror novels and scary books in general, so you have to go check it out. It's just anybody I know who's read this has loved it. So those were all the questions. I will go ahead and put the names of everybody I tag on the screen right here if you're interested in doing it. I tag everybody though, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some people I would have really wanted to tag, so just go ahead and do it if you're interested, and you can just say I tagged you. If you do film a not suitable for work book tag, please go ahead and comment down below that you filmed one, or maybe tweet it to me because I'd love to watch all of your videos. Or if you don't make videos, please go ahead and comment some of your answers down below. I'd just love to see what you guys would respond to some of these. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know Luke and I had a ton of fun coming up with the questions and filming this. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye.